this is still true, nicely. I think I got through the whole burn by 5% loss or something, so I'm pretty happy with that. I'll talk about Vlad Staker. It's something I built when I was not building a model anymore and just needed to work on stake management. So I'm Boris. I've been doing the tournament since 2016 when I wanted to learn machine learning, and this was a nice way to go and learn machine learning on a clean data set. Because if you're working on real data, you will spend 80% of your time cleaning your data, which is my normal job as a disease modeler. So I built Vlad at some point. The trigger was this: Richard making a comment like that people didn't spend enough time thinking about stake allocation, which is true. It was especially true for me. I was just sort of chasing whatever nice last month or the last 2 months and increasing the stake of that, and that was highly inefficient. And then during a period where the model was doing fine, I just switched to working on stake allocation. So the stake allocation is basically something that people in financial markets have as a problem, like which stocks do I invest in? And the tournament is pretty close to a stock market problem in that way. You have your own set of models to choose from, and now people have 50 or 100 models, and which one to stake on. You generally don't know beforehand. And sure, you might be saving some of your data as validation data, but not everybody does it, or somebody just trains on as much data as possible. And realistically, you need to save maybe a year or 2 years of data for at the end to validate your model well. You can actually long or short your own stocks. This P1 minus P is what we're using. If you invert the order of your predictions, you basically get an perfectly inverted score. I think it's still true now with the MMC. So but it feels bad if you're trying to build your best models and then your allocation algorithm says invert your model. So I tend to not do that. If my intention was to build a good model and it turned out that the inverse is a good model, it feels like I'm in random space, and it's probably you are in random space if you're finding that. Performance stabilized a little bit. We're now measured that against half core and 2 times MMC. That changed 4 times or something in the last year, but it seems more stable. MMC is a moving target, and we'll have to think, hey, how do you deal with that? Because training MMC data is provided from error 150 onwards or something, I think, if I remember correctly. So, but it changes quite a lot over time. So if you say, I'm going to train my model to beat a meta model at every time point, you're beating a meta model that no longer exists. If you're training on that, so you have to solve that somehow. But then, the development history of Vlad Staker. I just told you, staking on 4 or 5 models. When I started building this thing, I just built the enclosure, the language I'm already working. I was just doing pick a few models and then brute force myself through what is the best way of how much stake to allocate and which multipliers to use. Finally realized that people have done and have solved this, so I started in R, used the package as portfolio, which wants to have a long time series that is available for all your models, basically what you expect for stocks, but it's not necessarily true for models in Numerai. I tried to extend the time series by basically using the covariance matrices between my stocks and then saying, okay, you can generate the time series from that. There was all sorts of robust libraries for that, but the amount of nonsense they generated was just too much. Maybe I didn't invest enough time in it, but it just got complex and started breaking down. It just didn't generate the results expected. It did some weird things.
Good question. Is that portfolio package for like macros portfolio optimization? Or?
It's for things like tendency portfolios or min risk portfolios with constraints on long, short, or minimum size. And they have a 40-page PDF with it on how to use it. So it seems pretty okay and pretty standard what they're doing. we switched, as the tournament switched to a daily time series, we were also getting like quite enough resolved daily time steps. So before I was mixing like the final time steps and the last 10 time steps before final to have a bit more data than just once a week. But now with the daily time step, you can just wait for resolve time steps and collect within 3 months. You'll have about 60 measurements of final outcomes. So that's pretty good. And this is basically where I'm at. That's 2 years ago, and I've been using it for 2 years, so I'm happy with it. So that's sort of like feature on Jo-fai like this. So what is Vlad doing? If I go into details, not just taking models to things, but you read in an Excel sheet with the model. So I made it a little bit easy in some ways for people who use it. So you read in an Excel sheet with the model names and the starting error. 339 is the error we started with the daily tournament, and then just for simplicity, I don't go further back. So I started all these older models with 339, and then you have the newer models, and this goes on to about 40 models for Numerai's benchmark models. And then Vlad calculates the number of model stats to give you a graphical overview of your models. The reason for doing that is that you have to build trust in the portfolio that Vlad suggests, so at least you can check back on this thing and see if you, hey, does this make sense? Are these models very similar or very different? Do I see a point of doing this? And here, what it's doing is it's showing you the variation in the model score, so 0.015 to 0.03 here, and it's showing you the mean, so 0 is here, and it goes up to 0.025. So these are numerized models, just scored on mean and the variation. So there's quite some difference between things that are varying a lot versus things that are far more constant over time.
Mean of correlation is, or
yeah, what's that?
Mean is of
the mean score of this 0.5 core plus
okay,
times C. Yeah, so it's the combined score of the thing. But then I did also some model stats, and one of them is the maximum drawdown, so that's in red. So the stuff that burned pretty badly during its period is in red. Of course, models that started later might not have experienced the burn, so be a bit careful there that you don't think, hey, the newest model is best because it happened to not have the burn yet. And the other stat is the size of the circle, which is a variant of Sharp that corrects for autocorrelation and for sample size. So your Sharp gets more reliable the larger the sample size is, but if your sample size is, like if your history is very autocorrelated, it's not a real sample size of 300 observations, it's more like either use. What you would do with MCMC is take one observation every 10 weeks or something, or 10 days. This has some kind of correction for sample size, and the measure is called TSSR, it's pretty nice.
Why is the example model so good?
Yeah, don't ask Numerai. It's using non-engineered, I guess it's still using all the features, like they haven't been expanding the number of features for a long time. But all the features, a little bit like Denzel showed, also have less noise in a way. Like you're not having 15 features that look similar, but one might be slightly more overfit than the other. But it is good. And it's sort of a curious mix. So there's a lot of V2 and V3 here, which is nice. But you see there's not much V1, 4.1 in here, which seems to have just not been doing that well. There's a bunch of them here. But it's also like V4.1 might have had a burn period as well. So it's not, this is not telling you everything, but it's telling you something at least. And then, yeah, rather than looking at this graph and picking your model, and then saying, okay, I'll take any models from this and blend this together, don't do that. That's Vlad's job, so Vlad will pick for you. One of the things it's doing, and that's basically because of F portfolio, it only takes models with a mean larger than 0.0. There's something with the tangency portfolio manager in F portfolio that can go crazy when you have negative means there, even though in theory a model with a negative mean might improve an ensemble. I removed it after I saw it just ending up the a portfolio thing, we just pick only the negative mean, a single model for that. So there was something weird there that I had to remove. Yeah, so there's no fancy filling in the gaps anymore. So it reduces to the days where we have information on our models. So that's a bit of a problem, and I'll show you later how to solve it, because you're continuously adding new models probably on a new dataset and having the old models running. So your models have different lengths of the time series. And if you want to add them all together and evaluate them all, you're basically disregarding all the old models until you hit the subset of that is complete. So there's a little solution for that, and I'll show you in a moment. And then one of my things, I want more stability. I got nervous about all the up and down, so I also don't want to drastically redistribute my stakes every week because it's costly in a way to do. Like, it's moving stakes around takes time. And I am using this trick of having like 5 or 6 models called state models, where I just can swap in a different model when I want. So I have my models, they all connect to their own their own model slots. And then whatever combination of models I want to stake on, I have 5 more slots that I just reserve for staking, and I just duplicate the model there. So and the states are the only one with the Numerai on them. So it makes it a bit quicker to move Numerai around. You just have to change the deltas on those stake slots. Yeah, longer time series work better. But one of the things I'm doing also is like I resample from the time series I have. So if I have 170 model rounds, I'm not just feeding Vlad this 170 model rounds. I have to resample from that until I get back to 170. So there's some noise in there. And I think I also do that in total 40 times. So it's 40 different resampled models, resampled time series that are blended together, just to make it a little bit more robust and not depending on exactly the scores you have. Portfolio strategies. So this is the PDF that comes with it, and this is not my field at all. But there's a bunch of different goals you can specify on where you want to be on the portfolio management. And then you have this curve that some people might know, the frontiers, efficiency frontiers. So there you have the tendency portfolio and you have the min variance one, and I'm actually blending those two for something that worked nicely for me. So that's something you can just change and pick whatever you want. But I ended up taking like 20 models from this and 20 models from that and blending those. And there's improvements to be made there. But that's sort of taking a nice thing that I like. So here's for Numerai models that's coming out. And now you already see like a part of the solution for the different lengths. So these, from all the models that are around, around 340, it picked just those 4. So this, from the 4 datasets, 4.1 datasets, and the older datasets, it has a sample size of 278, so it's seen some burns, it's a long time. It's fun that example 2 and example 3 are still like preferred above, but for 4.1, example 2, these 2 on 4.1, you get the model weights, or if you say I want to stake 2,500 Numerai, it will just give you the stake size that you have. You get some output on your mean score, the covariates, which is here quite a bit higher than the mean. And then there's two variables that say something about your burns, and which I never really can reproduce what they exactly mean, but you can look them up. But then you can also say, okay, let's say we're starting around 553. Your sample size is smaller, but you get a few extra models you can add to it. One of them, notably, is this MD Hello Numerai. And it finds a different mix of them. Is there any overlap? Is 1020 still here, or Victor 20? No, actually not. So this is quite different here. It has a higher mean. And then, okay, let's go from round 602, which is another moment in time where there's a bunch of extra models being added, like the 342 brain datasets came into there. It's nice to see this actually getting picked up by Vlad. Example model still stays in there as something it likes. The Victor 60 is here and there at least. Xerxes is 20, so that one state. But there's So you get again your state distribution that it suggests. And then this one is not, just 71 samples for the latest one, which is quite short. So yeah, I have a minimum in Vlad set to 60. Of course, you can change what the cutoff is, but where you throw away the models that are younger than 60 rounds. But this is still quite short. These both two are on the short side of how long you want the models to run before you trust them. But you can just use these, and then you have four different suggestions of what to do. Now I was looking at, okay, how do I visualize this? And I ended up doing this. So here you have the oldest one that is running, so it's doing this thing. And then if I say, okay, if we start from round 553, I just start at whatever point the round 340 was, and then you can see how the two models diverge. So the 553 model actually did quite a bit better in this period and like jumped up, but then it's doing a little bit better than this one, but not that much difference from here onwards. The 602 started adding some stuff here, so you see it's basically, maybe it's doing a little bit better, but it's sort of doing the same thing. And the latest round of models started from here. That's also quite similar. So the thing is,
Sorry, is this in sample or out of sample?
This is out of sample for these models. So that's why, so they all have like back calculation. The 4.31 has a history all the way to there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't fully, they say they don't look back, but I don't fully trust them, so I'm only showing the part where from here they were submitted and they just need automatically submitted by Numerai and not changed anymore.
Yeah.
So this is out of sample for all of them.
But the portfolio optimization, did you do that on the values before?
No, the portfolio optimization uses all that, so there's no guarantee there. Yeah, you could just cut off the last bit and check for that.
Cool,
yeah.
See if it's robust in any way.
Yeah, that's
performance will change, but
that's good. I'm not doing that actually. Yeah, that's a good one to do it. And especially with data sets that are quite long, you can do it. Usually I'm too impatient for that, like, okay, now I just need to do that and trust it blindly. So the experience now is 2 years of trusting it, and that seems to work, but that's different than doing officially like validation. So you see that the 4.2, 4.3, and yeah, it's doing a little bit better than the old ones, that are 4 and 4.1, especially in this period. But between 4.2 and 4.3, I don't see much of a difference. It's also the same thing running up. So that's Vlad. It's available. I'm also started using it for a few other things. So not just for state allocation, but also for when I train my own models. I'm not training it against all targets, but I'm training it against a subset. And Vlad tells me which subset I should train against and how I should weight the subset. It's sort of the same problem in a way. Like, okay, should I be super good on Circus 20 or Circus 60? Which of these models should I weigh more in terms of matching that? So I'm using Vlad to figure out what ensemble of models to train to optimize for. So that's another way to apply it. And the third way I just recently found is that my model is an evolutionary model, so it generates highly correlated models over time. And I always had the trouble of, like, I have a wiggly line of performance over time. Which ones do I pick to make it an ensemble model? And with a bit of transformations in your code, you can also use something like that to say, okay, given these 1,000 models, make an ensemble of these 20 models or something like that. Code for those two things is not online yet, but I can work on that to also work on the ensembling bit, where you just generate from if your model generates also like out of sample data, you can use that to ensemble your models of that, and then use that to ensemble. So there's a few points in the tournament where actually the ensembling is the name of the game, and JB might add that is the whole tournament. But yeah, try it out. It's on GitHub. We're trying to make it sort of easier to use in some way, like maybe have a notebook for it. And Kaggle apparently has R notebooks these days that you're not trying to go through Python and into R. I tried to get it into Google Colab, but then Python had to install R in some way and it became a bit messy and tons of errors.
Try Giggle.
Yeah, they might work better. And I think Joe is also interested in looking at putting it in Shiny Numerai. Yeah, so try that. Just curious to hear what if you trust what comes out for your models. Any questions?
What about the balance frequency for if we apply for the methods to our jobs? What do you think about rebalance frequency?
Yeah, the way I looked at it is just looking at how, so it's not.
Is hyperparameter should.
No, it's not a hyperparameter. It's basically, I looked over time at it and it's quite stable, and that's probably related to the amount of resampling I'm doing, making it less noisy. So I can wait 2-3 weeks and I see, the weights have changed like 10%, but then I'm not caring enough about that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's not. That portfolio is a little bit limited in what you can do with it. It's not, but I'm not sure if it has, but I haven't fully explored it. I don't know if it has options for like saying it has to be close by or prefer not so rebalanced things. But it might be worth it. You can always just rerun Vlad on the same number of models, the same models you have. Like I said, if the universe is very small, it's just these same models that I'm already staking on, and then it will just distribute the weights. But you still have to do the stake and unstake on your stake slots.
How often do you rerun?
Once every month and a half, something like that.
So you're not developing any new models, so you just see how the stakes are moving out.
Yeah, it's frequently that I'm sort of having a few months out of pause with Numerai where things are just running and pick up, check with Vlad again if I have to change something, and then at some point start building new models.
How do you do it in practice? So, I'm not sure if I know all the details of staking anymore. It's also changed a few times. But as I understand, you need to have some free capital to restake, right? Is it worth the cost, or you could just have the capital all the time in the model?
I think he actually alluded to this earlier in the talk, which is that moving stakes around is slow and expensive.
Yeah.
So you have a few stake slots, and you keep changing the models that you use on those slots.
Yeah. So I have 5 models called Boris stake slot 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 or something. And they get whatever is the, if I rerun, I just look at which ones are closest already in Numerai value. So so they differ a little bit in how much Numerai is stake on each of them. So if I rerun, I can just figure out which ones are already pretty close to the amount of Numerai I want to stake on this new one. And then you can immediately remove a little bit of Numerai, so that's a free function, or and then you have to wait 4 weeks for that Numerai to become free. But if the delta is just 50 Numerai or something, it's not, it doesn't take that much. So you still need like 1.5 times the Numerai that you actually would want to, then you you lose about half your Numerai waiting for unstaking or something for a while. But it's not that bad. As a form of stake management, it's quite doable.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's worth paying the cost.
I'm not sure what you pay in cost. That's the
the unstaked NMR.
Yeah, that's which is not available at then. Well, it's why you're waiting.
Opportunity cost.
Yeah. Yeah, the alternative is worse. Like if you want to change something, you have to wait 4 weeks.
Well, on the other hand, you should also leave a significant chunk of your portfolio on Coinbase waiting for the price to pop.
Yep. Yeah, for random. That's true. For random. What is it? Somebody's pumping it.
Yeah.
So maybe all of it, not competing at all.
Yeah, so I think something the order of like you have a certain amount stake and another certain amount, stuck either in your Numerai wallet or between reductions, and maybe so I think your thing was 1x and half of that is in transit at all times, another half on Coinbase or whatever exchange you use, just waiting for the pumps.
So I'm having about half on as a liquidity pool on Uniswap. So whenever there's a bump and I crash, doing quite a lot with just a feast, while bots are trying to keep the Uniswap price equal to whatever the price on the exchange is. And then there's a bit free, normally floating around or waiting to be unstaked. And then there's a bit on Numerai. Yeah, so it's not just a tournament, there's quite some stuff around the tournament as well, but this is sort of manageable for me.
Cool.
And how long does it run?
This takes no time at all, it's less than 5 minutes at least,
Okay.
at most. Yeah. That's nice. So I'm not sure, what are people using? How do you determine your stake sizes?
By going into your GitHub?
Yeah, I would do that, but right now, like, I was really bad at just sort of chasing whatever seemed to be working as a model.
So another thing you could do is just have one stake spot, put everything you want to stake inside there, and then use this to build an
Ensemble.
ensemble of the models.
I'm doing that as well, so I have 2 ensemble models, and
And
they're
it should come out the same, right?
I should test it some point because one of them has been running for a long time now as an ensemble model of the 5 stake slots also are combined into one ensemble model. If that works, yeah, I haven't checked. I should check actually.
I never thought about it, but I only have normally one stake model, and I blend in the different models that I have another measure.
Yeah. I should check. By now it has some like 2 years of history, so I could check if the performance of the 5 models is the 5 stake slots is sort of comparable to the one meta model I have.
Yeah.
Because that would be an even better solution if that works.
Yeah.
But then just it would be the best solution. You just have to trust that the ensembling is indeed equivalent enough. That's a good solution. If that works, then you just need one stake slot and you can just up or downscale the amount of Numerai you're comfortable with.
Cool. So they do perform some sort of a transformation on your predictions, not just directly at it. So I don't think ensemble yourself is
fully
equivalent
equivalent.
to the same. Yeah.
I can check what it is for me. Yeah. Nice. Okay. No more questions?
Thank you.